So I was asked a question by Big Daddy in the Fixed Fantasy Fallacy video. That was very interesting. First of all, Big Daddy, thank you a lot for asking a question, but also for asking this question because I think it's a great question. The question was, and let me read it for you, would you say that morality is a delusional paradigm that leads to stress and cognitive dissonance? Morals pretty much compare reality versus a fictional ideal. Why even try to do the right thing? Good question, great question, maybe even one of the best questions one can ask. Why is that? Let me first give you the quick answer and then kind of dive into what I really think is behind all this. Because this question triggers me big time. You see, the point is, the answer is yes. Would I say that morality is a delusional paradigm? Yes. Does it lead to stress and cognitive dissonance? Yes. But why? Maybe it's different than you think. You see, I think you are cognitive dissonance. I also think you're a delusional paradigm, and I also think that morals are the only way that you can really influence yourself. When I think about morals, I think about the one part of your being that is what I call willful limitation. Right? It's the part where you get to decide what you won't do. So, in that regards, morals is all you are. And when I look at cognitive dissonance, I would say that that's all you are. Now, when I was talking about cognitive dissonance in the Fixed Fantasy Fallacy video, and also when I talk about it in other videos, it's usually on the personal level. So I realize you're a person living in the world, dealing with reality, and you believe yourself to be true, you worry about what's going on in your story and your future and your past, who knows, and in that dealing with things, you feel stressful. And that stress I call cognitive dissonance. But when I talk about the experience of being a human, the impersonal experience, so to say, I would say that cognitive dissonance is the essence of what that is, right? I kind of see two modes of being. You're either in the accepting mode of being, which I would call the observer mode, right? Or you're in the engaged mode of being, which is the friction mode, the cognitive dissonance mode. Now, there's more to say about that because if you can, you should be kind of combining those two in reality where you do engage, but you also realize that you're always the observer because you don't really know who created what you think, why you think, or how you think. But in essence, those are the two modes of being, and I think that it's either accepting or resisting, and resisting is done by cognitive dissonance. So what I would say is that what you pay attention to, what pops up in your awareness is what is not you. So whatever you accept without question, you don't see. But whatever is different than what you would expect, which could be also beauty, right? I'm not just talking about stressful things that you don't like. I'm also talking about things that just grab your attention. They are somewhat outside of your experience. They're outside of your idea of what is reality, what is you. So I would say that engaging with the world is all about engaging with not you. There's a lot of information coming your way, and what registers is what is different than you think. So if you did some job for someone else and you know you're good at that job and you just did it and you were happy with the result and the person says, wow, that's really nice, thank you very much, then you would probably not register the compliment as being like, wow, I got a compliment, I feel so good about it, because to you it's like, well, that's what I always do, it wasn't difficult, so yeah, sure, I'm sure you enjoy it, but that's business as usual for me. But if someone were to say, well, that's just crazy, I don't like what you did at all, then it becomes this thing that you start paying attention to, right? It's different. It's completely different than what you expected, and it creates cognitive dissonance. Now, that could also be the case if someone gives you a compliment about your work, but this person normally never gives compliments. So then it doesn't become about what is he saying, but the person who's saying it, and again, it creates cognitive dissonance. So that could lead to joy, but joy is also, in a way, cognitive dissonance, right? Laughter at a joke is a surprise. There is this idea or image or realization that you have that you realize, you're laughing at yourself. Like, wow, I never expected that. I always find it interesting to realize that laughter, for example, is a painful experience where your body releases hormones or endorphins to make it into a experience that feels good. But in essence, laughter is painful, right? Everything is pain, everything is friction. So I think if you look at how things work really at the level of the human, like the general human experience, then cognitive dissonance is the essence of your being, and there's nothing else to do about it. Now, when it comes to morals, it's very interesting because morals play a huge part in what you are. And it kind of depends on how you look at morals, right? If you're coming from morals as, right, the church or society or the culture has morals and I need to live up to them, then it's the external morals that you're concerned about. And there's a huge chance that they create cognitive dissonance with you on a personal level because someone else is telling you how to be. And especially when you look at the way religion has done that in the past, then, it's a tool for control. They either want you to be a specific way so that you do what they want, or if you can't be that way, you need to feel bad about it so you'll not feel confident, you'll shut up and you'll repent because you're not following the morals. So if we set a huge standard, an unattainable standard for everyone, and then we have a few people who are the mouthpiece of that God, then we have this creation of imbalance, we have this creation of an authority, and we can keep down the people to either let them do what we want or have them shut up. So that's a great tool for control, but it's not exactly what I want to look at because, they create cognitive dissonance, of course. But I think it's way more interesting to look at morals as part of the personal experience. And the way I see it, when I look at the human medium, there's basically 3 levels of limitation, because the way I look at it is that the human medium is a medium for processing. There's incoming data, right? You get feedback from the world, you get impulses, your senses perceive things. That goes into you and it creates some sort of story, a sort of image that you process. And in that processing you create thoughts, you create feelings, you have some sort of output, you do action, right? So you go from perceiving to receiving to interpreting to creating output. What this in essence is you're a medium that takes potential and turns it into actuality. So you have this potential of actions available to you as a human being, right? You have a body, you have a mind, you have a will, and that creates possibility. Now, it doesn't mean everything is possible because as a human being, you can't fly around. And if you do believe so, please try it starting from the ground and not from the 12th level of some building. But, right, you can't fly. So that is not within your potential. But you could run, you could talk, you could communicate, you could think, right? There's all these things that you could do. And that's basically, as humans, we have this potential. Just by being a human with an awareness, we have a potential. That is what I would call the natural potential. And that's where it starts with. So that's what I call start with what, or that's what I call the what of the medium, the context, the possibilities that are there, the potential of the medium. Now, after the what, there comes the why, and that is what morals is, and basically it's the second limitation. So the first limitation is natural, there's nothing we can do about it. You are a human being, you have an awareness, you have a specific body, and that means you have certain capabilities, and that's just what it is. Natural limitation to infinite possibility because of the human medium. Secondly, there is the why, which is the choice limitation of this being. So there's these infinite possibilities. Because you're a human, it gets limited to all that a human can do. And now you're here saying, I want to have a choice in here as well. And to me, that has to do with the fact that you're both like an animal and a god. You're both a limited body that will die, and you're this awareness that has this, identifying thing going on where it wants to kind of glorify itself, right? It wants to justify itself. It wants to understand why it is here and what the point is, right? That's the God being, this striving for permanence, this striving for glorification. And the only way that a God being can really feel a God is that it creates itself, or at least the world that it exists in, right? How can you tell yourself you're a God if you are just living in something else that you receive and there's nothing you can do about it? But what is the way to do something about it? It's not by expanding. You can't expand outside the possibilities of men, right? The human medium can only do what the human medium can do. But what you can do is limit yourself. Now, if you're aware of that, that seems perhaps a little silly, but if you're thinking about it in the personal level and you're just saying, well, I would never do that, I'm above that, right? I would never kill another person, I would never drink pee, I don't know, you can think of whatever you want. It's just that you're limiting what you would do or what is available for you to do because that is your will, right? The body must, the God wills. So it's a willful limitation of what you can do. Now the third limitation is skill. So after you oversee what you can do, only what is limited by just being a human being. Secondly, what you choose to limit yourself because you want to create this idea of self where you are in control. Then the third limitation becomes, okay, well, what can you do, right? You might want to play a beautiful song on a guitar, but if you haven't practiced a guitar, then you're limited by your skill. So it's available to the human species. You might even think it's great to do, so it fits within your morals. But then thirdly, you can't do it, so you have to practice and teach yourself how to do it until you finally can. So, but if that's what's the case, then you could say that morals are the essence of this identification structure, of this person, of this I, right? I will only do what I want to do, what fits within my framework. And so morals become your tool for self-creation. I would say that in the human evolvement of a person, right, from child to teen to adult, it's where the teens live, right? It's a tool for the teenager. First, you are bound to your parents and they tell you who you are. Then you become somewhat independent and you start thinking, well, wait a second, I want to create who I am. And that's when you start developing your own morals, right? You kick towards the morals of your parents. You say, your morals are silly. I want to create my own morals. And so you do. And so you feel like you've become independent. Now, I think when you do become independent, you also start to realize that morals are just, a limitation that you've chosen to be someone, but it doesn't mean they're right or wrong, right? If you start thinking about all these things, then morals become debatable. But that's for another story. So, looking at all of this, what I've said, I would say that, cognitive dissonance and morals are the name of the game. And the function of morals is self-creation, self-identification, just a tool for limiting what you will do. So that gives you the idea of uniqueness. So this gives you the idea of identity. You get to create yourself, but you have to stick within the boundaries. So you can only set the boundaries more closer than they are, right? You can't expand outside of the boundaries. So that's what morals do, and that's why they are very powerful, and it's something that people should really think about, because I think it's the only direct willful limitation that you have, right? Skills are a way as well, but you can practice your skills, you can influence your skills, and they will give you more potential, but it's not necessarily a limitation, but we're going very deep into this now. You could say that mastery is also a very big limitation, right? Someone who becomes a master at something has limited what or why he will do something, basically has developed skill and morals around a subject so that he creates in a specific way that creates something that is very difficult to recreate if you are not a master. Morals, great. I think what's interesting about morals as well is, if you look at the world, if you look at society, is that, how are you using your morals? Are you using your morals as a general thing or as a specific thing? Are you using it to be a moral man, saying everyone should live up to these morals? Because then they are external. Then they create a way to judge, right? If you're waiting to live your life and then at some point whip out your morals and start looking back at how you followed your morals, it's going to be a stressful thing for sure. But if you're using your morals to inspire yourself, when you're using your morals to be guidance in your life, just like a diet, right? Where you're saying, I will not consume these things and I will consume these things, right? If it's a religion and you hate yourself once you consume something you decide you're not going to consume, then it's going to suck. Same way with morals. If you decide these are my morals, not as something to live up to, but as like a law, and you break the law, then that sucks and you stress yourself. I think, again, it's product versus process, right? If you use morals as a guidance in your process, but you also are open to learning and developing and growing into those, then they can be a very useful tool. A tool for being the way you want to be. I think in this world we usually use morals for other people. We talk about morals and say, well, that's how they should live, right? These are my morals. I would never do this. But most people who say that have either not been pushed into the situation where that was a real choice, or they're lying, right? And if you use it just as a tool for judgment, then it's like the tool for control, the tool for cognitive dissonance. So that's what I think about morals. Let me see if I wrote anything down else that I thought was worth it. No, this is the basic premise of what I want to talk about. So hopefully this kind of answers your question. I know it's kind of a sloppy video, and I apologize for that. But it's a huge subject, right? If I would say that cognitive dissonance is the essence of what you are, if I say morals is the essence of how you create yourself, and I say that the delusional paradigm is the essence of what you are, then we're basically saying that the question you asked, is about whatever a human being is and how it works. So yeah, it's a big question, and it's not easy to quickly answer that in a neat way for me. All right, well, I thank you, and I will talk to you later. And if anyone else has questions, or Big Daddy, if you have another question, let me know. I'll be happy to answer it. See ya.